Hi, I'm Kevin Collier. Today I want to talk about an ambient system I've been developing for Wwise in Unreal Engine 5. The basic idea of the system is to spawn sounds around any actor in the world automatically based on gameplay tags and gameplay tag queries. For a quick overview, I sketched this little draft out in Miro. Uh, there are 5 different tiers of information in the system. We have our AmbiTag subsystem, an actor component, AmbiTag collections, AmbiTag events, and AmbiTag emitters. Each of these tiers communicates sound at the next lower level, offering information about the sounds that need to be spawned. Starting, the AmbiTag subsystem holds a gameplay tag container. We will add to or remove tags from this container using gameplay elements. Then we have an actor component that exists on any actor in the world we want sounds to spawn around. We will attach AmbiTag collections to that actor component. Each of these AmbiTag collections has an array of AmbiTag events and a gameplay tag query. If the gameplay tag query matches the current gameplay tag container in the subsystem, then we'll go ahead and trigger the AmbiTag event. When an AmbiTag event is triggered, we'll spawn an AmbiTag emitter somewhere in the world around that actor. Now, it sounds a little complicated. There's a lot of different layers to this, as well as a whole layer for debug using an editor utility widget. But let's go ahead and look at how this works in gameplay. Awesome. So there are a lot of sounds going on there, but let's go ahead and break down how the system works, and then we'll revisit this in a second. So there are a few steps to creating this. First, go to our audio in the concept browser, and we'll create an AmbiTag event. We'll call this AmbiTag event crows. I'll actually call this AmbiTag event crows test, since I already have one named crows. Then as we open this, we will see we have 2 different structs. We have a struct of Wwise events and a struct of spawn values. For the Wwise events, we can select an event to play when the event starts. So for example, I'll type in crows here, select that Wwise event. We could also type in a stopping event. I don't have a stopping event for the crows, so we're just going to leave this blank for the time being. For the spawn values, we can select whether we want the sound to spawn away from the actor, whether we want to attach the sound to an actor, so it would move with that actor in the world, the distance we should spawn a sound at from the actor in the world, a vertical clamp to add to that distance, whether we should use a physical line trace to prevent the sound from spawning beyond a physical blocker, the trace channel for that line trace, whether we should delay our first spawning event, a time for that range, so change this to 3 to 5 seconds, whether a sound should respawn after it has ended its first time. Again, we'll set this to be 3 to 5 seconds. And then a max amount of spawn elements available at once. We'll go ahead and type in 3 here. Next, we'll go back to our audio and we'll create an AmbiTag collection. This AmbiTag collection, crows test. We'll open it up and we can see we have a collection trigger condition, which is a gameplay tag query, and an array of associated AmbiTags. If you're unfamiliar with gameplay tag collections, gameplay tag queries, and gameplay tags in Unreal, I would suggest checking out the Unreal documentation for it. They offer some really cool ways to implement things in a game world without having to do as much hard coding. So, for example, we're going to create this query to be any tags match, and we'll say zone field. If any tags in the gameplay tag container are zone field, then this collection will trigger. Then we'll add our event here. So we'll type in crows test. We can save. And next, we need to add an actor component onto the actor in the world we want to spawn the sounds around. Mainly, we could do this with a first-person character. We also have the ability to override our spawn component if we wanted to, say, use our follow camera. For now, we're just going to disable this actor component, so we don't have to worry about him for a second. And instead, we're going to spawn sounds around this little cube. So we'll add our actor component, AmbiTag trigger, and we'll set up the information we have and make sure it's enabled. And we'll add our collection to the collection list. Tag collection, Crow's test. We can give it a debug name. We'll call this cube. Now when I start playback, you'll notice there are no sounds in the world. This is because we haven't added the correct gameplay tags to trigger audio playback from this AmbiTag trigger. So instead, we need to make sure we trigger that gameplay tag to be added to the gameplay tag collection in the subsystem. To do this, I've created this blueprint that is pretty similar to an Ambience zone. When you enter, we add a gameplay tag. When we leave, we remove that gameplay tag. So we'll set this gameplay tag to be zone field, just like what we had set up in the gameplay tag query. Now I'll go ahead and hit play and walk into our collision box. We'll hear the crows start to spawn around the player. The delay of 3 to 5 seconds. When I leave, let me take control of my player again. When I leave, the crows will stop playing. Now, as you may have noticed, we had some debug elements popping up in the screen, showing us where those sounds were playing in the world, what AmbiTag event was being triggered, what AmbiTag collection it was a part of, and the distance it was from its actor. To change this and turn the debug off, we can go to our project settings. We can go to AmbiTags, game. We can turn off our debug. This also lets us set the max number of emitters. So default, I've set 16. If we wanted to say we only want 5 emitters from the AmbiTag subsystem playing at one time, we can set that number here, and it'll prevent any more than that number being played. I'll leave this at 16 though. Now, going back to the larger test map I've created. First, I'm going to re-enable our actor component on the player. And let's go back to this map. Perfect. So if I zoom up here, we'll see a few different things. You see I have a few different ambi zones here. I have the sphere one, just adding zone forest. I have this large box that represents the field ambi tag. Then I have these smaller collision boxes that represent the farm. There is one more element I have adding gameplay tags to our subsystem. I created a very not great time of day system, basically rotating around 2 different light sources in the world and interpolating between some colors added onto those to give the feeling of time passing through the world. As time passes, we will add tags for the time of day, so morning, midday, and night. If I save, go back here to our little spawning points, and trigger playback. As we watch the active AmbiTags list, you'll see time night will soon be changed for time morning. We'll hear birds spawning, and the time morning will change to time midday. Crows still spawn, but we don't hear the crickets. We hear more birds. And eventually, we'll go right back to night. That's a little overview of the system. Currently, this is only built out to work with Wwise. I do plan on adapting it to work with both the base Unreal Audio tools and Fmod. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be sharing a link to this plugin and my GitHub. Feel free to check it out for yourself. I hope you enjoyed my sound.